Karen Jo Smith, my stepdaughter, when I married her dad, they become my children. All those many years ago, December the 27th, 2000, Karen Jo was strangled in the chair she was drinking her tea with. The last one to see her was her then 14-year-old son, my grandson. The next morning when her cousin called to want to know where is his mom, Brandon goes down. His mom's purse is there. Her coat's there, or her coat's not there. Her new shoes isn't there. But most importantly, she's not there. 4 children are upstairs sleeping from the ages of 5 to 14. No one knew where Karen was. Ed, her dad, and I were in Orlando at Disney, and back then cell phones didn't work real well, so we turned them off and didn't need to bother with that. We got back home December the 29th, tired, drove, didn't turn our phones on. Our message machine, answer machine was flashing. We were tired, we were going to bed. I'm going to bed. I got up the next morning and Ed was still in the chair he was sitting in. Went and got my coffee, turned around and looked at Ed. He said, came in, poured himself a cup and said, Karen Jo's missing. I knew in my gut it was more than missing. Because the first time that she and I had met in 93, it was to get her away from that killer. He went to prison in 97, or 95 or 97, for selling cocaine. We didn't find out till years later he was also trying to have her killed. And transpired with the cocaine with an undercover sheriff's deputy in Marion County. At the same time, the Indianapolis Police Department was getting him for cocaine, and they weren't talking to each other. So when he got released from prison in October of 2000, Karen Jo, thinking, keep your friends close, your enemies closer, she picked him up, and she took him back. She had been talking to a psychic for months, and he was telling her that the killer, which I choose to not say his name, was going to kill Brandon, her son. So by the time Ed and I got our crap together, I had never turned on the computer, and unless just to play solitaire. I hit the basement in the office, I'm on the computer. I tell him, you need to go to Indy now. And he's still frozen in the chair. What does a dad do when he cannot help his child? The last words he had told his daughter was, don't be calling me if anything goes wrong. So he was having to process. I am networking on there figuring out there's nothing in 2000 for missing adults. So I pull out my old tools from domestic violence and I'm a lot like a lot of us. I don't go to the bottom, I go to the top. I call the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, talk to Laura. She gets me back in with a new one from Indianapolis. There's still nothing for missing persons. The detective who had got there that night, that morning, assigned herself to the case. Had pulled out, we found out already, helicopters. It had snowed about 5 feet. There was evidence of something or someone being dragged out the back door. Steve, the killer, had nailed that door shut, but all of a sudden the nails were out. There was one sock on the bottom of that door jamb. The search began, as many of us know. Her Uncle Jack's garage became our command center. Now there's 50 family members in this family, immediate. As Halcom, the killer, I want to say it, used to tell her, your family ain't nothing but a bunch of dumb hillbillies. Well, those hillbillies rocked it. Because we had more sources. We had people to contact, the dentist. We didn't have anything. We just knew we need some records. We need something. DNA wasn't even heard of in 2000. I mean, it was heard of, but not being used. So again, we put on our long johns, everything. We were going blind. We started at the house. By day 4, Dawn Saffel and her dogs, some of you from Q know her, they were the first dogs on the scene. They tracked her just enough to where the car had went away. The search continued. I'm on my knees praying. I can't do another week. Can't do another year. That was almost 19 years ago. Fast forward, we're doing everything we can do. Doors open that families can open and police can't. We're not an extension of the law. They're building a case. We're searching for Karen Joe. We found a way to get his cell phone bill, not the records, because in 2000, because her dad owned a trucking company and her other families drove a truck, mapped him to 3 hours because he was gone. He was on probation. He climbed over a fence 3 weeks later to turn himself in for violation of parole. After we petitioned the parole board. We had to go to the parole board because his PO said, well, it's the holidays, he has a right to travel. He's on parole, he can't leave the state. We have no way. He's back into prison. Never lasted any more than 3 weeks. He goes back in. He's getting ready to be released. They're building a case. We're still looking 3 years later for Karen Joe. Now our detective, and now we have a grand jury getting ready to convene. Not supposed to know what goes on in a grand jury. Well, those 50 hillbillies know everything. There's nothing. I even got some information shouldn't give. Always get friendly with the secretary. She might give you stuff. Blacked out, it wasn't. 2004, the killer was convicted of murder 1 without a body. Now, that was after the second grand jury. It took that jury 1 hour and 20 minutes to come back. I won the bet. I figured they'd be gone in an hour. You know, you gotta do something. By the time we sat down, they said the jury's in. Years later, I found out it took them the first vote, 10 minutes. Death before dishonor, no body, no crime. Do you know what I mean, Karen Joe? That's what he wrote her. As he also said, now tear up these letters and don't let anybody have them. She had given them to her sister, who handed them to the police. He gets parole again. Before the grand jury indicted him, he gets paroled again, and off he goes. The day the grand jury indicted him, he was on the run again. So with all the tools that we had and that a family has, we are the detectives. We get threatened with arrest. But now we were being smart enough to know during that time, they're building a case, we're searching for Karen Joe. We know what we can do, such as my ex-husband did. He went to jail with the killer because he was going to take a picture. Well, there was a fight. His daddy went with him, he went with him, my husband went. Out of that came telephone recordings. Dad, it's virtually impossible to find a thing. That helped get him convicted. The letters helped get him convicted. Circumstantial evidence, which a lot of us don't understand, but we have come to find out, lays to the circumstances that he is the one that did it. That's why the foreman of our jury was an attorney, chosen by our prosecutor, so that they would understand that the circumstances lay to the fact that he was the last one seen with her, had tried to have her killed already once, written letters, and then the audio. Now you can't read a jury, but I picked 2 little college girls, and they're sitting about as close as from me to you. It only took that trial 4 days, but as soon as they played that recording, virtually impossible to find a thing. Those 2 girls' eyes went straight to him. I still didn't know. We never know what a jury does. One of the things of sharing her story is to know when you have, and in our heart we knew at her age of 37, they killed her. She never had left those children alone. No one but the 50 hillbillies had kept them. Nobody would have kept them. She never would have done it. So what are we doing? We are searching to fill the grave. There's a headstone with her mom, her 17-year-old daughter. My granddaughter got tied. We don't know what from, other than her spurt donors, we call them, had killed her mommy. I laid to promise to that 8-year-old at that time I would not stop till I found her mother. I'm still not stopping. My ex-husband and I got a divorce because it happens. We become a statistic. In November this past year, he passed away with a heart attack, was dead before he hit the floor. 64 years old. For some reason, he didn't want certain people involved in this search. I think I was on the phone about 2 days after that, getting hold of Monica. Because I knew from history that Q Center does not give up, and she has other work to do and communication and so on and so forth. He went down there in Kentucky or up there, and we pretty well know the area. And most of the time when a killer's talking and their lips are moving, they're lying. He wants something out of it. He wants moved. He wants closer to his mommy and daddy. I'd love to be able to look at him and say, after we find her, we lie. But I won't, because that's not good karma for me. Big thing of it is, we as a family appointed certain people to do certain things. You don't have 50 people calling the detective. We had 4 of us. Each one of us have a binder about that thick. Know that when the police get a little quiet, they're working. And when our police just said it's getting too quiet, we picketed his house. We brought it back in the media because we knew that he had killed her. We knew that he probably didn't bury her more than 2 feet. He gave up pretty well the location when the police took him to Kentucky, because he knew he wanted something out of it. But each time that you're searching and they aren't calling you, they're working on it. And a grand jury, that's a fishing expedition. The first grand jury we had, they were fishing. The second one came back with an indictment. But everything we did as a family, you have to remember, we cannot be an extension of law enforcement. Let them do their job. But at the same token, you can hand that cell phone bill, because we came up with it with our own, and let them track them. I see many familiar faces in here and many new ones. This is my first time here. It won't be the last, because I know that probably a little more will come out of me with this. But I know that my stepdaughter, Karen Jo Smith, we look familiar, like we are related. I had people even say that, jokingly. I would have been 8 years old. Kind of not going to be there. To bury and fill that grave is my desire. And I do believe this is going to be the group that helps us do that. And for that, I'm grateful.